dirty. Yeah, here we go now. Woo! Danger. Here we go now. Woo-wee. This is how we do it. 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 It's Friday night and I feel all.
Well, we are so excited for 2/22/22, our worship night. It's a mouthful, but it's going to be an incredible night, and we'd love to have you guys here this Tuesday for our worship night. Well, today, as we get into this discussion, we've chosen a topic that I think we're all pretty passionate about, and that's serving. And I think that when we talk about serving in church, a lot of people think about, in the church context, how I can serve in the church or serve the church. Yeah. And it could get tricky sometimes. It could get a little bit confusing. But I think when we talk about serving in the context of Jesus, he is, was, and will continue to be the best example of a servant leader, of a person who is serving others. Yeah. And there's a scripture in Matthew 20:28. It says, just as the Son of Man did not come to be served, but to serve, and to give his life as ransom for many. Pastor Matt, can you just take a couple moments and just maybe elaborate on that a little bit? What does that mean for Matthew 20:28?
Yeah, you know, I think you hit it really well, and even just what you said leading up to that verse. Jesus did not come to be served, but to serve. And I think to understand the power of this and how profound this verse is, we have to understand not only the content, what's said, but the context, who said it. It's Jesus. This wasn't one of the disciples. This wasn't a follower of Jesus. This is Jesus himself, who is God. And if anyone deserved to be served here on earth, it's Jesus. He created the world. He's fully God, fully man. And yet he sets this example for us that the life we're to live and the life we're to lead is not one to maybe get to the top or not one to be noticed, but rather one to serve others. And throughout Jesus' ministry, we see that he's setting precedent that there is a kingdom not of this world. And this kingdom operates much differently than our kingdom. That our kingdom is one where people focus on maybe trying to lead to be noticed, trying to lead to make a name for themselves. But Jesus steps into the picture in Matthew 20:28 and says, the greatest among you will serve. That the reason we lead, the reason we do what we do, the reason we live the life we live isn't necessarily to make our name great or get to the top, but it's rather to serve people and make his name great. And it just sets precedent of what our life looks like when we're living a kingdom-minded life.
Yeah, that's really good. I think this morning as we talk about this, we're not going to just talk about how we serve, but more importantly, who we serve. And I heard this quote, it was talking about leadership. It said, anyone can go and do a mission trip, which mission work is incredible. But how are you serving your neighborhood? How are you serving your workplace?
Really
how
good.
are you serving your spouse? How are you serving your family?
Really good.
And I think all of us, we hold leadership roles in our lives, not just here, but at home, at work, and the other things that we do. And today I have three big areas in which we can see serving in terms of leadership. And I think we can agree serving is leading. Yeah. You cannot lead if you are not serving, correct? And so there's three ways, and I'm going to ask you guys to help me give examples for these. Three ways where we see serving in leadership. The first one is this, serving those that lead you. Who would that be? Who is someone that's leading you guys in your life now or maybe in the past? Give me some examples.
Yeah, I think for me, when I look back on my life, there's a couple people that had a really pivotal role on me and my ministry and who I became, whether it be as a dad, a husband, a believer. But a couple of them, first and foremost, was a youth pastor of mine, and his name was Jeff Geis, and he was my youth pastor. And part of the reason I wanted to go into ministry, and part of the reason wasn't because of any spectacular sermon I remember him speaking or a spectacular moment in ministry, but just rather his servant heart. He genuinely loved me when I was just a scrawny, feisty junior high kid. And really, I mean, he'd come to my basketball games. He would invest in me. He'd buy me food, which when you're in junior high is spectacular.
The greatest.
Yeah, it's pretty cool.
Tool in youth ministries.
Absolutely. It's gold. But he impacted my life in such a way that that I said I want to do this, and that's and just made an impact on my life. The second group of people that I think were really impacting for me are my parents, and I know not everybody has grown up in a family with two parents or even a family with good parents. But I was very fortunate. I feel blessed that I had parents that taught me, I think, serving at a really young age. My dad at one time got a couple jobs so I could play sports and would take me to things early in the morning. They would stay late at whether it's soccer matches or games. And I think they set precedent in my life, what it means to serve, what it means to give. And I think that had an impact on me. And those are a couple people that were in leadership roles, that were above me, but yet served me in the season and moment I was in.
Yeah, and even outside of those two roles you mentioned, we're talking bosses.
Yeah.
We're talking people who
Absolutely.
maybe lead a ministry area in church. We're talking elders, people who are in places of leadership, even some that we may not even get along with.
Yeah, right, absolutely.
You know what I mean?
Yep.
Like we don't always get along with our leaders, but I think there's ways that they serve us, but also, let me ask you guys, how can we serve our leaders better? You know, you guys lead the church. How can we serve you better? How have you done it? And what are some good examples you've seen in that?
Even talking, going on the whole thing we talk about, you know, maybe there's people you don't quite get along with or you don't quite agree with. Because I've been in that place within ministry where it's like, okay, there's people who are above me, and I feel like I just don't agree with the way they do things or something, but I have to realize the bigger picture. And if I'm going to be like, okay, I don't agree with that leader, therefore I refuse to serve them, then I am only creating disunity within the church or within my job or whatever I'm doing.
Good.
And so to keep in a place with unity, it's like, you know, I might not agree, but I'm still going to serve them because God's appointed them above me.
Yeah.
In fact, we could make the case that serving isn't really serving until you're serving somebody you disagree with. I mean, really, if you're in agreement and you're on the same page and you're walking the same path and everything's going well, is that serving or is that just kind of living the good life? You know, I think our level of serving is challenged when maybe we don't agree or maybe we don't necessarily see it from somebody's a leader's point of view. Actually, the Greek word for serve is the word diakonos, and that doesn't mean anything to anybody and doesn't matter.
That's
But
what the D in my name says.
yeah, right. That's awesome. That's awesome. But it actually, the word picture of it is a waiter or an attendant. And when you actually think about it, when you go to a restaurant and a waiter waits on you, what do? They ask you questions. What can I do? How can I help you? Would you like this? And I think if we want to serve people or serve better, simply ask the people we work with, whether you lead them, they lead you, how can I best serve you? And I think many times our assumption is people want to be served the way we want to be served. But not any of us have the same personality. You might be an extrovert, an introvert. We all score differently on a DISC profile or an Enneagram or all these different tests. But the best way to serve somebody is just ask them, how can I serve you? Truly, like genuinely, how can I help you in this season, in this role, in this moment you're in?
Yeah, I think even on this topic too, it could get messy if your intentions are wrong.
Yeah, for sure.
You know what I mean? Like,
sure.
'cause sometimes, like, I know early in ministry for me, I would want to serve my pastors because I wanted a title.
Yeah.
Or I wanted a microphone.
Yeah.
Or I wanted the stage. And I think that I quickly learned, if I'm not serving out of love, I'm not serving.
Right. Good.
It's almost like I'm doing something to get something in return. Yeah. I think serving, we can't have that mindset.
Right.
Like, I'm serving you because I love you. And I'm loving you because Jesus called me to love.
Yeah.
And I think that this could get messy when you're serving those that lead you, because if your intention's off, it's not going to feel legit. Absolutely. It could feel phony. Like, what do they want?
Yeah.
Why are they doing this again? Like, I know something's here. And so I think that could get messy. And
Absolutely.
So that's the first one. The first one is serving those leading you, or seeing those in leadership serve you. Here's another one. Serving those you lead with. Not those you lead, but those you lead with. And Pastor Kim, you exemplify this so well. What motivates you to serve others that you lead with? And why do you do it?
Yeah, well, leading with, I mean, some examples that I think about are your marriage. You know, we lead together, we're married, we're parenting together. Your coworkers, we're on a team together. And I think when you're on a team together, you are reminded that we have the same goal in mind. We have the same vision. And I think it brings in collaboration, that I want to collaborate with you. You know, like as far as in our marriage, I want to serve each other because I trust that God has us right where he wants us for a reason. And I think when we talk about serving, I know, Matt, you brought up, you know, kingdom minded, that Jesus was about the kingdom. The cross was the end and, well, beginning, but the end of his life here on earth. But when we think about the humility, I think serving, it requires humility. It requires me to take humble pie and go, okay, you know what, maybe I think I'm right, and I think I know the answer, and I think I can do this better. But when we're humble and we serve one another, we recognize that we're on a team, that we both contribute. Or as parents, we both bring a contribution here, and we can serve one another. Coworkers, you know, recognizing that we're part of a team here, leading our workplace and coming together and recognizing that there's a bigger purpose, and if we can come alongside each other and lead together and lead one another, we reach a bigger goal.
Yeah, that's good. I think we even reach that bigger goal when you know someone like they got me.
Yeah.
Like,
Yeah, that's good.
I trust them.
Genuine
Yeah.
team.
Like they
Yeah.
take their jacket
Family.
off and put it on my back.
Yeah.
And I think that trust is built by serving one another.
Yeah.
You know, honoring them, honoring their time, and loving that person. Because on the flip side, it's also hard when you're like, I don't think they got me.
I do think too, though, that when you are serving alongside people, that it gets really easy to be in coast mode.
Yeah.
Because if you're fine, you just automatically think, well, they're fine. And it's like Kim said, like if we're not actually serving, if we're not checking in, we're like, hey, are you okay? What can I do for you? Like, we can't just assume that because they're serving alongside us, we're fine.
Yeah.
Everything looks good. Like,
I heard someone say it a few weeks ago. I don't want to be the leader that when I go to text them, the last time I texted them was asking them to do something for me.
Yeah.
And that challenged me as a leader, and I think we can all be challenged today. People that we lead with, are we checking in? Are we loving? Is every text, hey, can you do something for me? Or is it, I want to serve them and sacrifice time for them and check in on them? And so I really love that. Okay, there's a third area in which we serve in terms of leadership, and serving those that you lead. And so this could be your children. This could be people who work for you. This could be lots of things. Maybe someone you coach. Alicia, I've known you for a long time, and you've gone above and beyond to serve those that you lead, whether it's your kids, your youth students. How do you do it? Why do you do it? Maybe elaborate a little bit on that.
I would say why I do it is because they're an investment. And not an investment that it's going to make me better, but an investment in, if I serve them, if I invest in them, then they're going to invest in the kingdom. If I serve them and if I invest in them, then they're going to be able to invest in their families. They're going to, and I think a good example of that is Charlie and I were youth pastors for 5 years. And I would say like the first 2 to 3 years, we thought like, we do it all by ourselves. Just me and him, and me and him have to invest in the hundreds of kids. There's like 100 kids there, and we tried. We tried to be at all the sporting events, all the birthday parties, all the graduations. We tried to answer our phone every time they had an issue, and it just was, we were empty. There was nothing to really serve from, and then it just finally one day clicked in. Someone actually gave me a book that was called Your First Year in Youth Ministry. They actually gave it to me my first year, and I never read it.
Didn't read it.
I didn't read it until my third year. And I'm like, darn, why didn't I read it? Because it talks about how as youth pastors, we couldn't invest in the hundreds of kids. That was just too much for us. So if you take 10 leaders and you invest in 10 leaders, and now that you invested in them, you served them, you invested in them, now they too can invest in 10 students, therefore reaching the 100 that you could never touch because you were just empty. So I think I see people as an investment to me, not like I said, not an investment that's going to make me anything, but an investment that's going to only grow the kingdom.
Right.
It's really good.
No, for sure. And I think even if we can just even elaborate, this goes beyond church. Like we got to serve our kids.
Absolutely.
You know what I mean? Not just dinner or a lecture, but like legitimately, like, you know, I know my oldest, he's a words person. My daughter, she's quality time. Like we got to serve our kids. How can we do that? How can we get better at that?
Well, I think first of all, wanting to, having a passion or desire, you know what I mean, to want to serve your family, serve your kids. I think, you know, when we talk about, you know, this whole scope of serving, it's so broad, it's so wide. And I think many times, again, when we talk about serving in the workplace or serving in ministry, serving at church, there can be in our heart a desire to be noticed and a desire for people to see that. I think when it comes to our homes, that might reveal our heart of serving. Because really that's our family, those are our kids. That just stays right there, and that might reveal to us our genuine, true, authentic heart of how much of a servant we are.
Yeah, that's good.
It's interesting when you look at families. I think the best way a family can win is a family is trying to outserve one another. I mean, if you think about it, like you would be hard pressed to find an example where people are trying to outserve each other where there's a loss. I mean, you can look at a team that tries to outdo each other can't win, but a team that tries to outserve each other can't lose.
Yeah.
You know, if you think about it, there's really no loss in saying, I'm going to do my best to serve you and make sure you're taken care of. And I think when we model that in our home, as Alicia said, that creates an investment into our kids that goes beyond even our home, but someday into their homes and into their friends and into the people they interact with, and it's exponential. And maybe our highest level, our greatest level, our litmus test, I should say, for serving is how well do I serve our home, serve our
so good.
families.
Yeah.
I think I'm sure our kids are watching and thinking,
Yeah, I'm sure.
does that mean mom's going to do my chore list?
Yeah, right.
Like, no.
Right.
But I think
This
I
might
think
backfire.
They're fine. They're taking notes.
Yeah,
and-
they're like,
right.
okay.
Yeah.
Yeah, no, I think what Matt's saying is so good. I think part of being in a family unit, whether you're married, single, wherever the home you're living in is, it's being able to identify. You talked a little bit about personalities, but if when you know people, you begin to understand who they are and what their needs are, and you set your needs aside. I mean, you don't put them on a back burner, but you're focused on that the people that you're serving around you, as you recognize, okay, these are their needs, and I might not, that might not be my need, whether it's a coworker or my home, but it's theirs. And so I'm going to serve them in a way that models Christ. And I'm going to focus in and say, okay, this may not be what I think I need, but it's what they need.
good.
And I'm going to serve them in that way because it's going to reach where they're at.
It's really good.
I think it's safe to say in all these areas, serving is loving.
Yeah.
And loving is serving. And I want to talk about someone in the Bible who I think gets villainized for serving, and that's Martha.
Yeah.
In the Bible, you have Mary and Martha, they're sisters. Mary's at the feet of Jesus, and Martha is 409ing the toilet and is doing the dishes. She's not just loading, but she's unloading. She's
cooking the meals.
cooking the salsa. Like I'm just imagining her a lot like my mom. Just like someone's coming over, everything's got to be right. Like any of you relate with that? You have people over. You're like, it's got to be right. We got to have everything clean. And I think oftentimes Martha gets villainized for serving.
Yeah.
Honestly, I really think that when we hear her getting hear when they get preached, it's like we got to be like Mary and be at the feet of Jesus, and we got to be able to stop and put stuff down and spend time with Jesus. And I agree, but would we all agree? And we talked about this a little bit. Serving could lead to burnout if we're not putting Jesus first.
Absolutely. No, I think that's huge, DJ. I think when we look at the story of Mary and Martha, I think it's more of a story not about what we do, but who we do that for.
Yeah.
And so I think when we look at that story, we don't know the motivation or all the motives in Martha's heart, but we have to assume Jesus does. And therefore, he's speaking to something bigger in her heart, that her motivation is works, getting stuff done, accomplishment, checking boxes, and missing out on the better thing, the greater thing, which is sitting at the feet of Jesus. And ultimately, I think our heart of a servant starts with sitting at the feet of Jesus, because how are we going to learn how to serve anyway but through Jesus?
Yeah.
And that's how we learn how to serve. And then from there, we do have to get up and go serve and go do something. And we've all, I know when I led an internship, you'd have Mary and Marthas. It's interesting. You'd have Marys that, need 5 more minutes with Jesus. And I'm like, well, we need some chairs to get set up. You know what I mean? And then on the flip side, you would have Marthas that were very accomplished and task-driven people, but you more wanted to speak to them like, but there's more to this.
Yeah.
This isn't just so we can get a job done and we can check a box and so you can do well. We do this for Jesus. And so we need the heart and the hand.
Yeah.
When I think of the story of Mary and Martha, it's kind of a heart-hand conversation, and we need both.
Yeah. No, that's really good. And I love Mary's is, I just pictured someone just so in love with Jesus. I think we would all rather spend time with Jesus and worship while Stu's singing and going than clean our house or pick up the dog poop in the backyard or dishes or laundry. And I'm just venting at this point. But I think that we would all prefer to be at the feet of Jesus instead of doing serving or doing all these other things. But I love that you said it's a healthy balance of both but putting Jesus first. Because I know a lot of young people, and we've all did youth ministry. They serve for not Jesus reasons. Right. I want the attention. I want the applause. I want the leader of the week. I want the coffee for doing the best works. Right. And I think we should. I don't know. Maybe even for me as a youth pastor, I want to reward serving people and loving people because they love Jesus first more than. You came here early. You set up all the chairs. You came here early. You straightened all the Connect cards. I think for me, I want to make it my mission to acknowledge this person loves Jesus and they love serving others.
Really good.
Yeah.
Very,
I think
very
a big one too is looking at the capacity, and this is something I learned for myself, and then I duplicated myself in one of my daughters. But I think we look at the capacity that Martha was serving from. And when you see she was not pouring from a cup that was overflowing. I think that's a question we have to ask ourselves. Am I pouring to people out of a cup that's overflowing, or am I pouring out of a cup that's empty? And raising myself now as a daughter, I'm realizing because I'm trying to teach her, because she loves to serve. She loves it. It's like it's a love language for her, and so she will sign up for everything. And if you ask her to, it's a yes. And it's not like she just wants to do it. And then I remember the night that she came home and she just lost it, like just tears and like, I'm tired and I feel like I don't even know who I am, and she just fell apart. And I remember saying, okay, it's your capacity. Because now you're serving from an empty cup. As to where when you started, it was overflowing, you were okay, and eventually you didn't fill back up.
No, that's really good.
Well, I think about personally, Mary by morning, Martha by day. And filling up in the morning, that's filling your capacity up so that you can accomplish what God's asked you to for the day. And I'm not the best at. I think we talked earlier that I'm not a morning person, so I'm just tattling on myself here. But whether it's in your car, okay, I'm driving to work. That's kind of my time to turn up the worship music and fill my spirit, so that I can during the day be a hard worker, and I am busy working, but maybe I'm filled up enough that I'm going to be able to hear the Holy Spirit. Really say, okay, now pause. Talk to your coworker.
Yep. You're tender to those moments.
Yeah, listen. And I do. So I think that it's Mary and Martha. It's both. Yeah. But as you grow in your walk with the Lord, you learn when you lean into one or the other, because you need both.
Really good.
That's good. As we wrap up this morning, I just have some questions I want to land on, and all of you can answer, or one of you, it's up to you, just whatever you feel. But the first one is what would you say to someone who has the desire to serve others, but is maybe shy or nervous about it?
That's good. I think probably the action of serving might be a little distinct even from the heart of serving. Because I think heart of serving, whether you're introvert, extrovert, shy, outspoken, that's just a heart we pray for. And that's just a heart God puts in us, I think, as we seek him. But yeah, as far as the action, that's interesting. And the reason I say it's interesting is because when I look, I would say Kim is maybe one of the best examples I know of a servant. She serves people. She's modeled serving for me. And yet I wouldn't necessarily say she's outspoken, maybe not extroverted. And so whether you're shy or whether you're introvert, I don't know how much of a difference that makes. I think God can put a heart inside of you, that you pray for. And some of the, I actually look at, when I think of the word servant, let me see a picture of a servant. The person that comes to my mind is like Mother Teresa, and I don't necessarily see her as like life of the party, or, you know what I mean, or extrovert. I don't know.
Yeah, she's not grabbing the mic and carrying
No. But what's interesting is why is that the picture? Why is that who comes in my mind? Probably because they didn't need to be seen. And so maybe in the midst of being an introvert or being shy, maybe in this instance, it could even be a gift that you're not trying to be noticed per se.
Yeah,
You're
that's
just
good.
trying to have people notice Jesus
Yeah.
by your serving and by how you live and
Yeah.
what you do.
And it's kind of like you said, there's different ways to serve.
Yeah,
I
right.
mean, you don't have to talk to people. There, maybe you're a good writer. You write
Right.
some letters, leave it on your neighbor's door. Maybe you're good at baking.
If you are,
Yeah, right. I'll give you my address.
We need to
Yeah,
be served.
exactly. Yeah.
I think too, when you talk about being shy, is one of the things as a leader that I love to identify in people is that drawing that serving out of people and helping people know that whether you're an introvert and an extrovert, you have a place.
Yep.
And one of the things I think is if you are someone who's a little more on the shy side, is being okay with who God created you to be.
Absolutely.
And do it with somebody. Like especially like when I think about community groups, I think sometimes people are afraid to step out and serve in a leadership in a group because they think they have to know so much about the Bible. I have to know this, but you can find maybe your role in a group is I'm going to open my house up.
Yep.
And I'm going to use my home as a place to serve
Yeah.
and reach people. And then I'm going to find my friend who, okay, you
Chatty
like
Cathy.
to come to my house.
yeah.
Yeah.
I'm going to,
That's good.
and we're going to do it together.
Yeah.
And so sometimes serving is like, let's do this together.
Yeah.
Let's break through that wall, that barrier.
Yeah.
I'm nervous. I'm shy. I'm not sure how to do that. And know that God uses that.
Yep.
Just a willing heart.
Yeah. Just open eyes. I think of like the Dream Center. They have a phrase, see a need, fill a need. I think sometimes if we just keep our eyes open to see needs, we'll see them, and we'll be able to fill those needs, and that in essence is serving.
Yeah.
Seeing a need, filling a need, saying whatever I got to do, let me do whatever part I need to do and play the role I need to play that people might be reached.
That's good. Alicia, you hit on this a little bit, and this is our second question. What are ways that we can serve others? So you guys maybe chime in on how you do it or what you've seen, but what are ways that we, everyone viewing at home, how can we serve other people?
I am the note writer. I think Kim is too. Yeah. I like to do it out of the blue. Not like, oh, it's Mother's Day, they're expecting a note. Like maybe it's just randomly like, hey, you're amazing at this. You did this. I mean, we just had our women's event last night, which was awesome. Not last night. We had our women's event. Yeah.
February.
But I was like, you know what? Let me reach out to all the women that led, and let me just let them know what they did amazing at, what they were so good at. And I think that's
Yeah, I think
easy
you mentioned
way.
to neighbors. I think baked goods on neighbors' porches, flowers on the porches. I mean, things that I think unexpected mean so much to people. When it's good when it's your birthday to get that happy birthday, but sometimes when people are least expecting it, a lot of times it's just what they needed. You'll talk to them later and be like, wow. I just was praying and I needed to know that God cared and something
And
showed
your
up
text
on my
came
porch.
through,
Your
yeah.
text came through. I mean, text is one of the best ways you can let people know that you're thinking about them, caring about them today. And it doesn't take any extra time or effort.
And I think that's key, just being who you are. Like, obviously, if I were to bake goods and leave it on people's porch, that wouldn't be serving. That would just be mean because I can't cook and I can't bake. And so, therefore, you wouldn't like what you're eating.
Yeah.
But being who we are and using our gifts, our skill sets, and as, I think Alicia and Kim both said, not overthinking it.
Yeah.
Like, send a
that's good.
text. I've done... that's something I've done my whole life in ministry is just send texts to people randomly. Hey, thinking about you, praying for you. What can I do for you? I'm not sure if that hits them the way I think it will, but I just need to follow my heart in what the Lord leads me to do. And I think that's the part we play in serving. We serve God first, and that allows us to serve others. And so if we're doing our best to follow the Lord's leading, I guess it really isn't even up to me always how it hits them. It's just that I did my part to serve God, and I'm trying to serve them. And if that's my heart, if that's my motivation, I think I'm probably in a good place.
Yeah. I think that another way that we can serve people is even opening up our world a little bit.
Yeah, it's good, real good.
Because for me, I love nothing more than having people in my house.
Yeah.
Can I get you a drink? Can I make you some coffee? You know what I mean? Like I love nothing more than that. But more than that, telling stories that we have together. You know what I mean? Do you remember that one time where you fell at our leader's lunch and everyone was laughing at you? And
We remember that.
Yeah, but even those storytellings, like we laugh and whatever, but we shared that experience together.
Yeah,
and it was
that's
like,
good.
you're on my mind.
Yeah.
And that's what
Yeah.
the notes and the
real
baking
good.
and the text,
Real good.
you're on my mind. and I love you, and I'm thinking about you, and I appreciate you. And I think all of us need that sometimes.
Yeah.
And we don't have the time. We're parents. We have jobs. We launched a church.
Yeah.
We don't have all the time in the world to sit one-on-one with people, but to look in my eyes and say, I see you and I love
Yep.
you. That's serving.
Real good.
And that's a
Yeah.
great
Yeah.
way to serve
It's
someone.
incredible.
Last question, and then we'll get out of here today. It is easy for people to show up on a Sunday and say they don't need anybody else to serve. Do we agree? Like someone could show up and be like, oh, they have a great greeting team. Ilya is an incredible driver. Their kids ministry is incredible. Their production team, man, those guys serve. But I think it's fair to say the team is always in need of people
Yeah.
to join the team, to join production, to join worship. Well, some of you maybe keep it in the car. But would you agree that we don't have it all together? And
I
we
would
need to have it all
say, I would say we are missing what you have.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's
Yeah.
good.
That's
There's
so
something
good.
special that God put in you,
Absolutely.
and we're missing it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
No, and what's so, and to piggyback off that and what you said, DJ, I think when it comes to serving, oftentimes, yes, we need people to serve. I mean, just ask Pastor Gio. He's like, no, I can give you 18 roles. We need people to serve in kids. But I think oftentimes the truth, not to be cheesy or not even to be cliche, I think we need to serve for us.
Yeah.
Yeah,
I
that's
think
right.
there's something that happens in our heart when we're doing something, not expecting to get anything in return for it.
Yeah.
But we're doing something, whether it's just, I'm going to serve kids, I'm going to serve youth, I'm going to say hi to people. And my goal is not so I can be noticed, and so even I can make friends, but this is the heart of Jesus. This is
Yeah.
who he is. This is what the gospel is all about. And so certainly every church needs people to serve. But more importantly, I think we as individuals need to serve
That's
because
good.
it does something in our own heart.
I was actually talking to somebody who was telling me how they would go to churches and they kept feeling like they just didn't fit in, like it wasn't family. And then they fell into this church and then they decided to serve. And they're like, once I decided to serve, it felt like I had a family.
Yeah, it's incredible.
It just changes the dynamic rather than being the person that just kind of sits in the back and then takes off. But when you're the person that's serving with the team, you just become one of us.
This may be a reach, but I feel like the more opportunities we have to have Marthas, the more opportunities we get to be Mary.
Yeah.
And so
really
what
good.
I mean by
Really
that
good.
is like the more people that serve, the more opportunities we get to just come to service,
Real good.
just
Yeah.
to worship,
Right.
just to
Yeah.
experience community in the lobby. And oftentimes we could be busy serving and not have those Mary moments, but everything that we've said, let's do this
Yeah, let's go.
together.
Come on.
And,
Yeah.
and to be able to say, I co-signed when that person, you know what I mean? Like, I was part of that story. Or, we pray every Sunday morning before service over chairs. Us serving, that's another person serving that we can say, we were part of that story. I remember they came in and they're like,
so
I don't
good.
need church.
Yeah.
And now they're like
Right.
singing,
Yeah.
hokey
Yeah.
pokey with the kids.
Yeah, right.
And it's the stories that come out of serving that are just so beautiful and so fun to be a part. And so before we wrap up, any final thoughts on serving that you guys may have?
Man, just follow your heart, find a need, see a need, fill a need.
Do
and,
it.
Do it.
Just do it.
Just do it. Nike had a good slogan.
Yeah.
Do it.
This is how we do it.
This
Yeah.
is how we do
Oh,
it.
wow.
Yes.
Wow.
Our current sermon series.
Yeah,
So,
come on.
guys, thank you so much for tuning in this morning to Church 4 Online. If you liked something today, put it in the comments. If you were like, okay, I'm fired up, I want to serve, I'm ready to roll up my sleeves and be a part of this, you can go to church4.us/serve, and there's so many opportunities for you to get in, and someone on our team will follow up with you and give you more information to get plugged in and get going on serving here at Church for All. Again, on Tuesday, we have our worship night, and it's also our team night.
Yep.
And if you're like, oh, I'm not part of a team, no, come out. Let's worship together. Let's spend some time at the feet of Jesus, and let's talk about the amazing things that we're doing through our teams in our ministry.
Come on.
And so we love you.
Yep.
Make sure to share this video so Pastor Matt gets frosted tips. Not really. And we will see you next week at Church for All. Thank you, guys.